Hi everyone. For marriages. For divorces. Every story is told from the husband's perspective. The question is simple: did these wives cross the line, or did the husbands overreact? You decide. Welcome back to the verdict room. It's verdict time. Story number 1.
Am I the jerk for not regretting divorcing my wife because our son is not mine? I try to make it as short as possible. So me and my ex-wife Mary, real name cause I don't care if she finds out, have been together for 5 years and married for 2. Our relationship was mostly fine, and we always had only one major issue. She cheated on me when we were together for 3 years, and after a lot of therapy, I decided to forgive her and to work harder for our relationship. It wasn't an easy decision at all, but I loved her more than myself, and I decided to forgive her. Then since things were going great, and she changed from therapy, I decided to marry her, and she accepted. It was the best day of my life, even though my friends told me that I was insane to marry her because of her cheating and her past. She have a very high body count of over 100, but I loved her anyway, unfortunately. My friends didn't show up for my wedding because they were extremely skeptical, but I didn't care because I was too happy. Her parents too were happy that we worked things out, and the whole wedding and honeymoon was just amazing, and it was like I was living in one of those fairy tales. Then after a year of marriage, she became pregnant, and I was super happy to start a family with her, and the whole pregnancy went smoothly. But then when our son was born, something was wrong because he didn't look like me at all and had just small things of my wife, but really nothing like me. I started thinking about it, and some things were off, like her announcement of pregnancy. When she told me that she was 4 weeks pregnant, I didn't have intimate relations with her for 2 weeks because I was in another country. When I asked my wife to be there when she was about to give birth, she hesitated, but told me yes. So after thinking again and again about all the wrong things, I did something that I don't regret. I took my son for a DNA test while my wife was at work, and I was at home with my son. After a week, the results came back, and my worst nightmare became reality because he wasn't my son. The same day, I immediately contacted my lawyer, and after explaining to him the whole situation, he started to prepare the divorce papers. So after a month, I served them to my ex-wife and told her that I knew that our son wasn't mine, so as to not make things complicated and to just sign the papers. The drama started, and she started to cry, beg me to not divorce her, telling me that she would become better, that we could put our son for adoption, that she made a mistake, and all the classic excuses of a cheater. But I put my feet down and told her that I couldn't change idea after I already forgave her once. After 2 hours of this pathetic scene, she finally signed the papers and packed her stuff. She called her dad crying and telling him to pick her up, but without telling him what happened. While we were there waiting for him, she was crying and begging me to forgive her, that she would become better, but I just ignored her, and when her dad arrived, he asked what the hell was going on, and I showed him the results of the DNA test. He started yelling at her and was extremely mad and angry for what she did, and finally, they drove away to her parents' house. Fortunately, in our country, the divorces under 5 years are quickly, so in a few months we were divorced, and she got nothing from me, not even alimony or any type of it. The thing is that in those days, and even now, I never cried, shouted, or did any of these things, but I just feel broken and empty inside, like this thing changed something in me. Obviously, my friends, when they knew about this, were happy and started to tell me the classic, "I told you so," and thinking at it now, they were right, but I was blindsided in love with her that I didn't understand the whole mess. Months passed by since the divorce, and I still feel like an empty and broken human, but I don't regret doing the DNA test because my worries were right. Now, the issue is that a few days ago, I met some of me and my ex-wife, mutual friends, and we talked a bit about our life changes and obviously about the whole mess, and they told me that my ex-wife is depressed, sad, and that the AP disappeared, leaving her to stay at one of their house. And they asked me if I regret the divorce, but I told them absolutely not, because I forgive once, but not twice, and not a big thing like baby trapping. They called me heartless and cold for not thinking about her even once, and the baby is 1 year old now, because according to them, she still cried for me and still punished herself for what she did, because she really regretted her actions. So am I the jerk?
Verdict time. Not the jerk. Reason. She knowingly tried to pass another man's child off as her husband's. Jerk meter. Wife 100% jerk, baby trapping, destroyed trust. Friends 20% jerk, guilt tripping. Story number 2.
Am I the jerk for being upset and want to file for a divorce when my wife went behind my back and become a surrogate for her best friend and her husband? Hello. First of all, I apologize if I made any mistake because I never use Reddit. But I just need outside opinions because a lot of people around me seem to tell me I'm overreacting. My niece suggested posting in this subreddit to open my eyes, so here I am. First of all, I, 31M, have been married to my wife, 31F, for 4 years. We met during high school, dated, and got married. I'm an introvert, but not antisocial. I can socialize just fine, but for some reason, I've never liked her best friend since high school, E31F. She always gives me bad vibes. She's an extrovert. But to me, she's just someone who often oversteps people's boundaries under the guise of being friendly. Since we started dating, he has always meddled in our relationship, saying that my wife was too good for a nerd like me, that my only redeeming quality was my face. I did tell her to stop, and she did. Now, he is more subtle and passive-aggressive. A year ago, he and her husband of 2 years visited her in our house. It was the weekend, so I was at home, helping my wife taking care of our 3-year-old son who was still 2 years old at that time. After I put my son to sleep in his crib upstairs, I went down and overheard their conversation about starting medical procedures for surrogacy. I was appalled and asked them what they were talking about. The three were shocked to see me downstairs. I told them I absolutely disagree, especially since my wife's first pregnancy was very difficult. I was visibly upset and asked why they made this decision without consulting me. He made her own choice to have her tubes tied at 26, so why can't she consider someone younger or look into adoption? Why does it have to be my wife? Arguments started, and I told them to leave. Later that day, my wife showed a text from E that she and her husband apologized and won't proceed with the plan. Last Monday, my wife felt unwell. I took her to the hospital despite her protest, where we found out she was pregnant. I was both happy and worried because of her first pregnancy. She was unusually quiet on the drive home. She then admitted she had secretly undergone IVF procedures since last year. I asked her how she was sure it was not mine. She told me after every session, she was told to not do the deed for 2 weeks. I remembered that sometimes she would refuse because of stress from work, and I always respected that. I felt heartbroken, betrayed, and disrespected. It felt like it was the last straw. She always sided with E and tried to downplay E's disrespectful behavior towards me. So, I packed a bag with essentials and left to my parents' house. Before I leave, I told her I will file for a divorce and told my 3-year-old son that I would be going for a business trip. I haven't picked up her calls or responded to her texts ever since, and I miss my son but couldn't talk or see him without seeing her. Seeing her would hurt me more. E and her husband never reached out to me, showing how little respect they have towards me. My parents, elder sister, and my brother-in-law are on my side, but my friends, the rest of her family, and some of my relatives told me to reconsider and think about our 3-year-old son. I admit I've been crying and drinking all week. The ones on her side told me that I shouldn't be controlling and that her body, her choice. It was not my intention, but I was just hurt, sad, and disappointed. I truly love her. Why am I upset? Why am I disappointed? I'm not the one that likes to be vulnerable and make a post about it, but here I am. So am I the jerk?
Verdict time. Not the jerk. Reason 1. The wife secretly underwent IVF and agreed to surrogacy against her husband's explicit refusal, violating marital consent. Reason 2. She deliberately hid medical procedures and consequences that directly affected the family and their child. Jerk meter. Wife 90% jerk, secret medical procedures disregarding for husband's consent. Best friend, E 90% continuing the plan with OP's wife, not thinking that it can ruin her best friend's marriage. Story number 3.
Am I the jerk for threatening my wife with divorce after she quit her job to be a trad wife? I don't even know where to begin with this. Me 34M and my wife 33F have 2 kids together, 11M and 9F. Me and my wife have been together for 12 years and married for 8. Around a year ago, I noticed my wife increasingly sending me these trad wife or traditional housewife TikToks. I have nothing against that type of relationship, but I don't think it makes sense for our current family situation. I do earn quite a bit more than my wife and enough to sustain our family on my own, but I don't see the need to do so. I work 80% and my wife 50%, and besides Wednesdays where the both of us are working, either one of us is always home for the kids. I could work 100% and let my wife be some, but again, both of my kids are attending school, and in my mind there is no need for my wife to be at home 24/7. She got increasingly pushy about it over the past 2 months, and again, I just kept on telling her that there wasn't any need for that, and if we did decide to go down that route, what would she do during the hours my kids attended school? I know damn well our house doesn't need to be cleaned for 6 hours a day. She would constantly try to butter me up with, "You would have dinner ready every day when coming home from work." Again, in the nicest way possible, I would remind her that our kids weren't toddlers, and our current work-life schedule allowed us to function perfectly fine. We got into a pretty heated argument 2 weeks ago about it, and my wife completely stopped having intimate relations with me to show me what I would be missing out on. She's basically been treating me like a roommate since. I just thought she would get over it, and this was just a phase, but God, was I wrong. I came home from work yesterday and saw a bunch of presents on the dining table. At first I thought they were all for me since my birthday was in a week, but then I saw the labels on them addressed to my wife. I read one of the letters attached to one of the presents. The last sentence on it was literally, "It was such a pleasure working alongside you, and I wish you all the best moving forwards." I thought this was some sick prank. A few minutes later, my wife just casually strolled into the living room acting like nothing was wrong. I guess she saw my mad expression and had the audacity to tell me that, "You'll get over it." I just lost it. I just left without saying another word and went to my parents' house. I feel absolutely disrespected. Why the fuck would my wife think it was okay to just quit her job without telling me and just expect me to be fine with it? My wife has been bombarding me with texts and calls demanding to know where I am and that the kids miss me. I just told her to go find a lawyer and that I was done with her, and then proceeded to block her. My son just sent me a voicemail crying and asking why I was divorcing mom and if I was leaving the family, and I guess that kind of broke my heart. I haven't responded and honestly don't know what to say to him. My mother-in-law has also been demanding that I return home and apologize to my wife. My parents also seem to be siding with my wife since they are traditional Muslims. My mom also used to be a Psalm. I feel like I'm wrong for immediately jumping to divorce without hearing her out, and besides this whole job drama, I love my wife too much for this to be the end of our otherwise perfect marriage, but on the other hand, I feel like I've lost complete trust in her. Should I just swallow my pride and let my wife stay at home from now on, or should I follow through on divorcing her? How should I navigate this situation? Am I the jerk here?
Verdict time. Not the jerk. Reason 1. Quitting her job without informing or agreeing with her husband was a major breach of trust and directly impacted the family's finances. Reason 2. She used manipulative communication. Jerk meter. Wife 100% jerk, manipulative, secretive. Mother-in-law and OP's parents 20%, taking sides. Story number 4.
Am I the jerk for bringing up divorce for my wife cheating after I cheated years ago? My wife and I have been together for 12 years and married for 9. We have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. I had an affair with a mutual friend about a year after my 4-year-old was born, and I regret it. She was leaving with her husband to Germany, and I hadn't had intimate relations for over a year because my wife did not want any contact after the birth, and we slept together 6 times. I assumed my wife wouldn't find out, but she told my ex a year after our affair from Germany because she felt guilty and was leaving her husband. She either wanted to take me down with her or she assumed we would divorce and we might get together. Either way, I graveled and begged my wife's forgiveness. She wanted to divorce, but didn't. I know she stayed mainly because of how hard it is to be a single mom, and I hoped she would eventually forgive me. She asked that I agree to let her have an affair like I did with someone of her choosing as a condition of staying married, and I stupidly agreed because I didn't think she would actually do it. It's been a long road, but I honestly thought she forgave the affair. We have been raising our children and having regular intimate relations. We bought a house together and moved to be close to her parents. I thought this was behind us. For months ago, she told me she was having an affair with my newly divorced friend. I was absolutely shocked and angry, but she reminded me I agreed, and I did, but man, it hurts. She is way more manipulative than I thought possible, because she waited until one of my close friends was divorced. I try not to show it, but I was livid and I felt so hurt. Yes, I know it's ironic because I cheated first. She has since finished the affair and told me it was the same length and number of experiences as mine. I haven't talked to that friend, and I have no idea if I can ever again. He never reached out, so I assume it's the end of that friendship. I'm thinking of a divorce because clearly she never forgave me, and I can't forgive her for this. I brought up divorce, and she got mad and reminded me I gave her a free affair card years ago. I told her clearly that it meant she hasn't forgiven me, and she said she had forgiven me the second she had her affair.
Verdict time. You are the jerk. Reason: the husband explicitly agreed to let his wife have an affair to save the marriage, then objected once she exercised that right. Jerk meter. Wife 20% jerk, exercised permission, but could be seen as spiteful timing. Husband 70% jerk, hypocritical, upset over something he agreed to years ago. Biggest jerk, story, secret surrogacy, IVF behind husband's back. Why? This is the most severe betrayal. Medical procedures done in secret. A pregnancy that directly affects the marriage, finances, health, and family. Explicit deception, lying by omission plus timing intimacy restrictions. Complete removal of the spouse from consent and decision-making. This isn't her body, her choice in a vacuum, this is marriage-level consent violation. Verdicts are in, but the final judgment is yours. Comment below, and welcome back to the Verdict Room. See you this Sunday for our next episode, where we'll be diving into intense family and in-law drama. If you want your story featured anonymously and for our viewers to decide who is the jerk, send it to verdictroom@proton.me.